First question. How did the mod came to be and what were the initial plans for it?
Well, kind of. That's a good question. It began not with me or Doomer or anyone really else that had their name associated with it, but instead a user by the name of Literal. His goal was to simply, faithfully, and as accurately remake Fallout Van Buren as close as he could on the Fallout New Vegas engine. That's pretty much the big gist of it, but there were additions in mind. Like, the team was very, very ambitious at that time, especially Literal. One of the biggest ones were like very broad ideas for like story arcs, fast travel, stuff like that. Originally, he wanted very big one open world, but we toned that down to what it is now.
Question 2. If the mod isn't going to have an open world, how will the system work for traveling between locations and exploring the location themselves?
It has been a while since I was with the project officially, but from what I remember, we were just going to split up the open world into multiple areas, more akin to Fallout 1 and 2 than anything else. However, there was multiple ways of traveling between these areas, such as in the original game, Van Buren's train system, and also cars. Fast travel, I'm not aware of, but last I checked, I'm pretty damn sure caravans were also going to be part of that, but I might get something mixed up.
Question 3. Could you explain the semi-reboot the mod had and why it took so long to start development again?
Well, there was a lot of hiccups. Me and a fellow Discord user, or the main or co-lead, we'll refer to as Jay. We were really the only people working on the project, as Literal was busy with college at the time, and we were very inexperienced. We were very overly ambitious and didn't really have much of a clue what we were exactly doing. Naturally, the mod started to fall apart when the rest of the team figured out how inept we were, and leadership changed to someone who quickly left the project not even a week after they took over his lead, and roughly a week after that, Doomer got on the heels of being the project lead. When he became project lead, the project suddenly had a much better chances of becoming a fully realized and fleshed out mod. That being said, though, thanks to Doomer, the project has managed to survive. There were a few other ones, such as Literal's Discord account getting hacked. The hacker deleted all the servers he had ownership of, including Fallout Revelation Blues, or the public one at the very least. We basically had to start fresh with advertising the mod, which is good. I consider that a blessing in disguise, as we were so ambitious at the time that PC game, they believed that the mod was fully finished thanks to a fake demo we had. I wouldn't say fake, but not really accurate to what the project was. And we lifted the asset from, I believe, a San Francisco mod. I had no part of it. I'm not trying to deny it, but not the smartest decision, and I don't know who was in charge at the time. I don't think it was Literal.
In your personal opinion, what do you think the biggest differences were between the first incarnation of the mod and the current one? Not only in the contents of the mod, but also in the team themselves.
I'd just have to say it feels much more like something in line with what you see in Fallout New Vegas as a inspiration or base game. And I'm not saying that like, it's buggy to hell and back and the areas are kind of empty, but more or less like story writing and like overall world detail, it's far more akin to that than we ever really thought ever could have achieved in the first initial concepts. And it's a lot more grounded, focusing on the world, what's inside this world itself. Details like factions, groups, like how the NCR operates. We're not going for broad strokes anymore. The team is actually going for much more like being far more specific, more professional, and higher quality over quantity.
Next question. What were your work when you were on the team, and could you tell us a little bit about your old teammate?
I'd say that is a good question. I'd just say my biggest contributions to the project started with social media, concept art, and writing. If I had to specify it, though, I'd have to say it'd definitely be the Joshua Graham doc, although I'm sure that got heavily changed as my writing has drastically improved in quality since then. Granted, I made that like 2-3 years ago, but anyways, I'd have to say about my own teammates, I'd have to say Doomer was a absolute joy to work with. He was very professional, he was very hard working on the project, and much higher skilled than I ever could be. One example is he managed to set up a Google Drive where we store everything just by himself. I didn't even know he did do it, but in like a matter of like 2 days, he got like this very high quality and professional looking Google Drive set up just without any help. He didn't even ask for any. Someone like Joacon, who if I'm correct, does do social media since I've left, or someone else. I not exactly sure of details. I always enjoyed working with him. We could always bounce ideas off each other really well. I didn't really feel like my own ideas got shot down a whole lot, and when they did, I did completely understand why. Not with Joacon, but with the team itself. Stuff like concept arts. I never really got onto the team about that, and art direction was, if I could be a little honest, it could get a little vague at times, but that was mostly because of myself not really becoming more distant with the team as time went on.
What was your work for the planned New Canon demo?
New Canon is basically like our shot at showing the Canaanites, or the Mormons, from you probably might know from the Honest Hearts DLC. They were just called the New Canaanites in there, and we're continuing that. I was not really super involved with the writing here on New Canon, but I did do some little contributions. Nothing really big, but enough to help. But I do remember that it feels much more akin to almost more like a western town, but like mixed in with some modern elements. It'd feel right at home in New Vegas, so we believe it's a good little start before we do anything really big for the project, like Hoover Dam, which is probably a few years from now. My biggest contribution was Joshua Graham. Like a few excerpts about Joshua Graham, but it ended there. After that, my idea, it starts to fizzle out some more, but from what I remember, it did, I got very interested in how it started to implement, things about, characters, and the way, a lot of them kind of intertwine. It felt when I say it feels a lot like New Vegas, I don't mean just, in aesthetics. I mean, just in general writing, the way, every character has some sort of purpose in that area. I can't remember the exact NCR camp name, but it's that one that's in a standstill with the Legion. And it felt very much like that in how every single character, you can interact and do something for every single character, and it all intertwines into one overall narrative for that area.
Question 7. Are Fallout New Vegas 3, 4, 76, or any of the other spin-offs canon to this mod?
It was a very, very early decision that Fallout 3, 4, New Vegas, and pretty much, every game after Fallout 2, and maybe Tactics, but that's stretching it, is non-canon. This was made for maximum compatibility and faithfulness to the original Van Buren source material. It's not like we're trying to challenge Bethesda or Obsidian. We're just going to make an accurate, faithful, and 100% adaptation of the Van Buren video game. Nothing else to it. And to do that, we needed to make sure that Fallout 3, 4, all of that was not canon. There might be elements of Fallout New Vegas, solely because Fallout New Vegas was, and this is probably more to me than anyone else, felt more like a spiritual spin-off to Fallout Van Buren than any other game. I hope that answered the question. And just to say it again, no, Fallout 3, 4, New Vegas, 76, and pretty much all spin-offs after Fallout 2 are non-canon. Maybe Fallout Tactics.
Question 8. Considering your previous work in the mod, what would you say will be the final scope of the release of the mod?
I'd have to say the final scope will definitely be around, I'd have to say definitely around Fallout New Vegas in terms of size. It might exceed, it might be lower than that of Fallout New Vegas. It all depends on where the final development goes. And it's hard to exactly measure thanks to some areas like Hoover Dam existing, which will be much bigger than in the base game. And thanks to the map being more spread out than anything. If you want a good guess, I'd have to just say around Fallout New Vegas.
Question 9. Could you tell us a little bit about how the team is going to translate Van Buren mechanics to the New Vegas engine? Or what version of the Van Buren mechanics that aren't going to be implemented because of restrictions or not fitting the current mod design?
Biggest ones that might or might not be cut are the changes that would have been done to the speech system. If you don't know, that speech was split up into 3 categories. I believe intimidation, persuasion, and lying. I'm not exactly sure on that, you don't quote me on it. But I'd have to say, just for the sake of simplicity, and those might get cut, but you never know. If the team is really willing to go through that whole ordeal, they might be able to do it. The next one I'd have to say would definitely be cars. Their function will remain the same, but the exact way they're used and how the player interacts with them, that would definitely change. There's no way to keep that the same. And one more is probably going to be just some obvious ones, like the top orthographic view, multiplayer, just big stuff like that.
Question 10. Do you have any messages for the viewers and the mod team?
First to the mod team, I'd have to say, always keep your heads up. I know it's a lot easier to say that than actually do it. But as a man much wiser than me once said, the quality of your thoughts affects the quality of your actions and your commitment. If you stick with it, if you're willing to put in the work, if you're willing to put up with maybe it's just one of your ideas not seeing the light of day or something not being good enough, then you can do it. Because Fallout Van Buren to me is the greatest what if for the Fallout series that we'll probably never really see in an official manner. And to the people who are waiting eagerly for this mod, wait some more. I'm not even going to let you sugarcoat that. You're going to have to wait. But it will be worth it. And I'm not just saying that just to hide the team lagging behind some places. No, I mean that. The team is putting in the work and the hours into seeing that this mod gets published and is of high quality. And, well, keep your heads up for the project and stay safe. Hopefully shit does not end up like a Call of Duty Black Ops 2. Have a good one.
Good night, everybody. See you. Bang. Okay.